Hey guys, welcome to the final week of the Big Ten regular season in football. It was rivalry week, and it was a week that really was something, including another coach getting fired. But let's start off. Big Ten championship game. It is all set. First team to make it in, we found that out on Friday night. It was the University of Indiana. Surprise, surprise, surprise. I think we all kind of saw that thing coming. Indiana has been a juggernaut, and poor Purdue never really stood a chance at home. Senior day, I feel sorry for the Boilermakers because, well, Boilermakers, it's kind of hard when you go through your schedule, you go through your season, and you don't win a Big Ten game for now 2 years in a row. But Indiana, man, this is the game where even though they won, still didn't look like the Indiana that we saw throughout the beginning of the season. But Indiana wins this thing going away 56-3, cementing their spot in Indianapolis, which is going to be a short drive from the road for Hoosier fans. Look, it's going to be a sea of red in that building. Why? Because Ohio State won as well. So it's going to be all red in that building. But yeah, it's for Indiana, first time in the Big Ten championship game. And as of now, they're a slight underdog to the Buckeyes. But when I look at this game, what I'm going to see is the winner of this game, especially the quarterback, you're probably going to win the Heisman Trophy between Sands and Fernando Mendoza. Those are the top two candidates right now. And I think if one comes out and really dominates in that game, they're going to win the votes in the hearts of all the Heisman Trophy voters who have not voted yet. And you have voted, shame on you, because you should just wait until the very, very end, because you never know what's going to happen. But Big Ten championship locked up. Indiana is in. And as I stated before, Ohio State, the Ohio State, in. Why? Because Ryan Day did something Ryan Day hasn't been able to do in the last 4 years. Beat Michigan. I mean, they won the national title, but it was the little fly in the ointment. It ticked them off that they had one loss last year, even though they won the whole thing. Because you lost to Michigan and you were a heavy favorite in Columbus. This year, no problem whatsoever. Julian Sands, look, he overcame the first interception early in the game. Michigan could not capitalize. They always say field goals get you beat. Field goals got Michigan beat. They kicked 3 of them. No touchdowns. Because of that, Ohio State wins easily in the big house. 27-9. And if you're an Ohio State fan, it's got to feel good. It's got to feel good because you probably heard it from every Michigan person that you've known for the last 4 years. Here's what I mean, if you think about it, no one on the Ohio State team had beaten Michigan. Nobody. Now they get the gold pants. Now they get to say that they have knocked off the University of Michigan. As I said, Sayans went out there, had himself quite a game, 233 yards, 3 touchdowns, hit some wide open receivers. And as far as Smith and Tate, and look, and even the running game was Bo Jackson and really dominated the game. 22 carries, 117 yards. Didn't get any touchdowns. Kind of wish he did, but because I had it in a parlay. But he did not. Donaldson, 44 yards. And you look at this Ohio State team, and I'll say this team is actually better than they were last season. This is a better team. Matt Patricia's defense is like something I've never seen before. You don't score touchdowns, and if you do, you don't get 2 touchdowns because Penn State's the only team that's done that, folks. This Ohio State team, they said, oh, they haven't played anybody. And then the Indiana team, well, they only played Oregon. Guess what? This is the collision course that we have all been waiting for. Can Indiana, with that high-powered offense, Signetti-led, coach with, like I said, Mendoza-led offense, can they go into Indianapolis to a place where Ohio State's been many, many times? But Indiana should kind of have the home field. They had a jump on buying the tickets for the game because they were definitely in. Can Indiana move the ball? Can Indiana go up and down the field on that Ohio State defense? That's going to be the key because nobody's been able to do that at all, especially when you get into the red zone, where it's Indiana. It's like automatic when they get into the red zone. The immovable force versus the impossible object, or however that saying goes. That's what you're going to see in this game. Which team, which strength is stronger? Let's just put it like that. Which strength is going to be stronger in this game? Ohio State red zone and the Ohio State defense, or the Indiana high-powered offense. But don't get it twisted. Indiana can play defense, and that Ohio State team, they can put up points as well. It's going to be an entertaining game. And look, no skin in the game, must-watch TV if you're a Big Ten fan, because this is the game we have been dying to see all season long. They did not play each other all season. Guess what? We get it right here, right now. We're going to be watching this game. I know I'm going to be glued to that game. As far as Michigan goes, look, for Sharon Moore and the Michigan Wolverines, you lost another game to a team that you were the underdogs to. You lost another game where you really didn't look as if you belonged on that field. And I was a little disappointed because the game started off. Michigan, they had a 6-0 lead. They get the first turnover in the game, but you cannot kick field goals. And here's what's going to have to happen. You're going to have to find a way to unlock the code to get Bryce Underwood to actually look like a Big Ten quarterback. Because against the Western Michigans of the world, yeah, he looks great. Central Michigan, he looks great. He looks great against Central. What are you doing against the big boys? And in this game, it was not a good look. 8 for 18 for 63 yards, and he throws a pick near the end of the game. The run game, it was kind of there until it wasn't. Marshall came out there, and then he got injured. I mean, like I said, the first play, he takes off running, and then he catches the ball. And it looks like Michigan had the formula, like, man, maybe it's just on Ohio State's head, and they're going to lose this game for the 5th year in a row. But then everything stopped, and the bad part about it was Marsh. Andrew Marsh I don't think he got a pass in the entire game, and that's concerning because that's your number one wide receiver, and Ohio State just took that toy away and said, somebody else has to beat us. And if you're Michigan, you got to design plays and schemes to make sure you get Marsh open, to get your playmakers to be playmakers. That's a coaching thing. That's a problem right there. Is they never really this Wolverine team never really grew. They beat the bad teams, but they couldn't beat the good teams. They kind of went all Penn State on us this year, where you knew if they were the underdogs, they weren't going to win the game. That was Oklahoma. That was at USC. And that was now home against the Ohio State. Now, what's going to happen next? You're probably going to end up going to the Citrus Bowl or something like that. But if you're Michigan, you really got to figure out this offense and figure out what you want to be, because I don't think look, to have a tool like Bryce Underwood, you have to nurture him and you have to get him better. He's not going to get better turning around and handing the ball off. He's not going to get better just working the play action. You got to let him use that arm strength. You got to let him use everything. You have to work on his touch. You have to work on his, not always throwing the fastball, but just getting the ball to the receivers on the fingertips so that they can take it with the yak and go more. You have to do more to really develop this quarterback, because you've invested a ton of money and time into him, and it just seems a little wasteful, guys. And look, my opinion, he didn't improve over the season. He looked like the same quarterback from the beginning of the season to the end of the season, and that's problematic, because I've seen other freshmen. Heck, Malik Washington at Maryland got progressively better. They would just take the reins off and say, hey, Malik, you saw that in the Michigan State game. They lost, but they said, Malik, go win this game for us. He damn near threw for 500 yards. I don't know if Michigan doesn't trust Bryce Underwood, or if just Sharon Moore is just so stuck in his ways with that offense and how things are going to go. But this kid looked better when Sharon wasn't there for those suspended games. I don't know if that was a coincidence, or I don't know if you just played bad opponents, but I just know that offense just seemed to be a little more pass heavy and just looked a little more fluid when he wasn't there. I don't know what you got to do in the offseason, but you're going to have to do something. All right, let's round out some of the other games from rivalry week in the Big Ten. The Axe stays with Minnesota. Minnesota wins, and they defeat Wisconsin 17-7. So it's a little ski-u-ma going on there. You also had the big Lincoln hat. That stays with Illinois in a closer game against Northwestern. Illinois wins 20-13. And then out in LA, the La La Land, USC comes back. The UCLA had I think a 10-9 lead at halftime, but UCLA found a way to come back, defeat their arch rivals UCLA to get the job done. And then on Friday, you had Iowa they demolished Nebraska 40-16. Iowa just out there doing Iowa things. Nebraska, once again, finishes with a losing record in the Big Ten. And then, as I stated earlier, Indiana just mollywopped Purdue 56-3. Finally, the capper of the night here locally, Michigan State goes out, wins their very first Big Ten game. Yeah, their very first Big Ten game. They defeat Maryland 38-28 in a high-scoring rout. As I stated, Milivojevic, there you go, Milivojevic, 27-39 for 292 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 INT. Toliver had about 95 yards on the ground. They were able to get things going. And I think the biggest play of all was Alante Brown taking it back 92 yards on a kickoff. The one time he gets into the game, he takes the kickoff. He's been hurt all season long, goes into the game, gets that play for his final play as a Spartan. What a way to go out with the touchdown, 92-yard run at Ford Field. Game was at Ford Field, so they didn't have to worry about the elements. As far as Maryland goes, I mean, Malik Washington did everything he could to will this team to victory. Maryland quickly abandoned the run and just said, hey, if we're going to get back into this game, because State jumped to an early lead, and they said, if we're going to get back into this game, we're just going to play 7-on-7 football. And damn, they damn near pulled this thing off. As like I said, Malik Washington may be the best. He may be the best freshman quarterback in the Big Ten. Look, I know he doesn't play for Michigan, but his numbers, go ahead and take a look at them. And yeah, this game, I know you could say it's Michigan State's defense, but anybody who gets close to 500 yards, he had 459 to be exact, 3 touchdowns. He did throw a pick in the game, but man, it just got to the point where he was just out there slicing and dicing. And some of those throws were just, he looked like an upperclassman in that game. So if you're Maryland, I think now Loxley, maybe that's the reason why Maryland ended up keeping Loxley, to make sure that Washington does not leave. He is the quarterback that you could definitely build around, and we'll see what happens for Maryland for the next year. For Michigan State, ironically, Jonathan Smith gets his very first win. But what does that mean? Well, it means you still got fired the very next day, as Jonathan Smith leaves with, one Big Ten win for the year. Technically, it was his only Big Ten win, but he had some last year. They got vacated. But, yeah, Michigan State wins 38-28, and in turn, they fire their coach, Jonathan Smith, and they're going to move on. I'm going to add a little bit more to that a little bit later. I'm going to do just a separate podcast on the Michigan State situation. So just wanted to say that. And also, before I go, I want to give a shout out to the 2 local teams in Michigan, and it's Michigan State. And I don't know if you saw it or not, but Michigan, Jesus. Michigan, what's the name of this tournament? The Players Era Championship out in Las Vegas. Michigan put on a clinic, folks, okay? A clinic where they went out there and they knocked off San Diego State 94-54. But wait, I'm not done. Michigan, the very next night against the ranked Auburn team, 102-72. But wait, there's more. Gonzaga, ranked number 12 in the nation. Not anymore. Michigan, 101-79. to 61. They scored over 100 points in back-to-back games. They get the $1 million pot. Yaxel Lindenborg is your MVP. He scored 20 points, 11 rebounds, had 4 steals in that final game. That was the Michigan team that I was expecting to see in hoops at the beginning of the season. Not the team that struggled against Wake Forest, not the team that struggled against TCU. That team looked like they're like pros. They just dismantled their opponents. Dusty May had those guys humming, and he said, look, they treated those Wake Forest games and the TCU games as losses. That really got the team motivated. Dusty, I don't know what you said, but you need to bottle that and sell it, because what that team did, beating the brakes off of all of those teams out in Vegas, taking $1 million, and I found out the $1 million gets divided amongst the players. So everybody walks away with, let's just say, about $67,000 in their pocket. Not bad for a couple nights' work. Not to be outdone, they didn't get $1 million, but Michigan State has also knocked off, I guess, one of the third big-time games that they've had this season. They started the year off with UConn. It was an exhibition game. Didn't think they were going to win that game, and they didn't win it. But they must have learned a lot, because they then go, they play Arkansas. Bang. They get it done at home. Okay. Then they go on a neutral court to Madison Square Garden. They beat the University of Kentucky, a college basketball blue blood, faced their second blue blood in the University of North Carolina down in Fort Myers and Michigan State. Jeremy Fears led that team 74-58. MSU just got it done. Fears led the team. Fears leads the team, had 19 points as they just pulled away. North Carolina really just put it on the second half. North Carolina was just playing catch up. They had guys in foul trouble. Carson Cooper, 14 points. Cam Ward, another 11 points. Jackson Kohler, 10 points. You had, Caleb Wilson, the freshman phenom for North Carolina, had 18 points. But it was just too much Michigan State, too much tenacity, too much of everything. They had Carolina big men in foul trouble. Tom Izzo looks like he's unlocked the code here. And I say all this to say it really feels like we are headed for a collision course of Michigan State sometime in January. Now, we're going to talk more basketball later. This is more so football, but just had to give the props out to those two teams for really going out there and really getting the job done. Michigan winning the Players Era Championship. Michigan State knocking off North Carolina. Michigan State has a game against Duke, the third college blue blood at the Breslin Center on Saturday. You win that one. Like, look, at the beginning of the year, with the 5 teams that they were going to play, and I do include UConn in that game, that the exhibition game, because it was a big game. That's why Izzo scheduled it. Didn't think that they would win all of those games. I'm just like, man, if you can at least get 1 or 2. Okay, UConn went and happened. You showed up, you lost. Okay, you put up a good effort. All right, now it's the real game. You got 4 games. I think any Spartan would have signed any piece of paper to say if you split 2-2, don't care who the 2 are, 2-2 between Arkansas, Kentucky, North Carolina, and Duke, you would sign that. Right now, you're sitting at 3-0 with a possibility of sweeping all 4 teams. Yeah, Izzo's got this thing humming. Just that Izzo Dusty May thing, this could go back to like when Beeline had Michigan going, and that Izzo Beeline rivalry games. Look, those games sucked when you lost, but it felt so good when you won. Just like I said, watch out for that. But as I stated before, a lot went on. We got the Ohio State-Indiana matchup in the Big Ten championship game. It is the game that everybody's been waiting for. It is the game that everybody wanted to see. I think the winning quarterback will be your Heisman Trophy winner. That's how much is on the line. You're looking at, get this, not to be lost in all of this, because I know the SEC and it means so much more. Number 1 versus number 2 in the Big Ten. Not number 1 and number 2 in just the Big Ten, in the nation. Facing off it at Lucas Oil. in Indianapolis. Ohio State 1, Indiana 2. This is what we've been waiting for. So plain and simple, it's going to be fun. Also, before I leave, the NCAA, a plea to you, please fix your whatever it is that you're doing. I'm looking at what happened with Lane Kiffin taking the LSU job, but kind of holding Ole Miss hostage. Says, well, I'll take the LSU job, but, his family's visiting Baton Rouge before the Egg Bowl against Mississippi State. I think he knew he was gone. Florida backs away because they're just like, you know what, this is going to be trouble. He takes the job. He wanted to coach his team, but I guess in the end they said, look, if you're going to coach your team, you're going to be the coach here. So he said, nah, well, I guess I'm out. So he's gone. I think Ole Miss will still make the playoffs. They won't be punished because he left, but my God, damn. This is not fair to the kids. And think about this. He's probably going to poach the staff. And if Ole Miss, let's just say, makes it to the national title game, it's going to be a little problematic because the portal's going to open up before the national title game, meaning he can poach some of his players and take him with him to LSU, which now means that some guys will have to make a decision. Do I sit here and play for a championship at Ole Miss, or do I go and take my talents to Baton Rouge and go play for LSU? This is all on you, NCAA. You could fix this, but you're so afraid of being sued for every doggone thing that you have no spine, no backbone, and you cower and just bow to the slightest little bit of, well, this may not be fair. Okay, we got to make it fair for everyone. No, how about you just stand up and say, no, this can't happen. If you're going to leave, you leave when the season is over. You're not allowed to abandon your team because this is a bad look because it makes everybody just look like the mercenaries that they are, from the players to the coaches to the schools. Get a grip, man. You can fix this, but it's like you choose not to. And this is why we end up having ridiculous situations like what's going on with Lane Kiffin. A guy who really has won nothing, he falls up, and now he's about to get paid. Why? Right place, right time. He hasn't won anything. Like James Franklin has won more than Lane Kiffin. Think about that. But he's going to get the money, and he's held his team hostage, and the team has moved on from him. And Ole Miss having the best season in their history, and they won't have their coach. They're going to have a new coach coaching them because Lane Kiffin is gone, and he's taking people with him. And you just got to hope that he hasn't poached his roster and take too many people and get them to switch and hop into the portal and leave. Because if not, that's just going to be a shame. NCAA, you must, I implore you. It can be done. Forget the lawsuits, okay? Just do the right thing, or this sport will go down the toilet. This sport, it's teetering, man. It's if you look at how much has changed since COVID season to now. The COVID season, all of a sudden you can start paying players, to now players have agents, now NIL deals. Now the schools get money to pay on top of the NIL packages they get paid. You got coaches up and leaving in the middle of the year. Like, you got to do something. And then the coaches' buyouts. Yeah, you got to. So much is going on. You're going to end up screwing yourself over. The worst thing the NCAA could do, they were trying to be the NFL. Don't be the NFL. Let the NFL be the NFL. The thing that made you what you were was you were college. Because if you think about it, NFL players come and go, but they always love what they play school. You would see that in the intros of games when they would say what school they went to. It was proud in the locker room. They would have the bets when teams played each other. But if you turn this into just a transactional league, there is no rivalry games because you don't know who the rivalry is. You don't know that you're supposed to be hating this person. You just know, like, oh, okay, who are we playing? And it's just another game. It's hurting this league. It's hurting everything about college football. It can be fixed, and I pray to God that somebody steps up, becomes an adult, and just gets this thing fixed. Period. End of discussion. It's not that freaking hard to do. Just somebody, please step up and do your job. All right. Enough of that. I'm off my soapbox. You're going to see the 1 versus 2, Ohio State, Indiana, this Saturday. Number 1 versus number 2. And I'm telling you, whoever wins the game, you're going to get the bye. I think whoever loses the game still may get the number 4 bye, especially if it's a close game. And winning quarterback, you're probably looking at your Heisman Trophy winner. All right. We'll have a breakdown of that game a little bit later on. Plus, I'll have a Jonathan Smith, What's Next for Michigan State podcast as well. Thanks for listening and watching the 5-Star Zone. Keep subscribing, keep liking, keep telling your friends. I'm your host, Rico Beard.